Last time we talked about hybrid publishing, we talked about the advantages of hybrid publishing, but today we're going to talk about a few more of those, plus some challenges you may face with hybrid publishing. In case you don't know who I am, hi, my name is Caitlin Duncan, and I am a hybrid author, which means that I publish both traditional and independent books. Here on my channel, we talk about the writing process and all the bookish things, so if that at all interests you, be sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you know the next time I upload. Now, in case you missed our previous conversation about hybrid publishing, I will link that for you in the cards and the description. I have such a love for hybrid publishing because I really think it's the best of both worlds when it comes to publishing in this current time. And given enough knowledge about hybrid publishing, I know you will be able to gear your books and your projects to build you a long-lasting author career. So I'm really gearing this toward my perspective as a traditionally published author moving into self-publishing, which makes me a hybrid author. But if you're going from a self-published author to a traditionally published author, I think these tips will definitely apply to you as well. So as discussed, some of the pros of hybrid publishing is making more money in between traditionally published releases and also having more books released each year, and the ability to experiment with genre and publishing trends that traditional publishers may not be interested in. But several more are finishing a series that your readership absolutely loves. With traditional publishing, the bottom line for choices on what books to purchase next really comes down to income. They're a business, right? They're all in it for the money, but so are you. I have had successful completed series along with one series that only had a first book before it was dead in the water. Now, there are authors out there who have written 2, 3 books in a series before their publisher cut them off. But you've most likely spent years building up this series and building a readership, and when these books are cut off prematurely, that can be a disappointment to your readers and to yourself. And I've heard from authors who have had this happen to them before, and they have readers constantly emailing them for the next book, but they just didn't feel like it was possible to put it out because it was with their traditional publisher who didn't want the series anymore. But with hybrid publishing, you can keep that on track. Now, this comes with a possibility of a complication that you may have. You would either need to get permission from your publisher to complete the series on your own as a self-published author, or you can ask for the rights to the series books back from your publisher. Caitlin, what are you talking about? Well, let me tell you about it. I wrote a whole book about rights reversion from a traditional publisher, if you care to check it out. And this is not a shameless plug, it's just a plug for my book that I absolutely love. And I think it'll really help you if you're interested at all in learning about rights reversion as a traditional published author, as a self-published author, or even an author who wants to get to know more about the 2 different routes of publishing. So let's go down both paths because they have equal merit. So say your publisher still has the rights to the previously published books, but there's nothing in your contract that states that you can't continue the series on your own. As a caveat, be sure to check with your agent and or a lawyer about this to ensure that you can publish like this. My issue with that, if you do publish more books in the series on your own, that does drive traffic and sales back to the beginning of the series because most people want to start at the beginning. So you don't have the rights to those books in the beginning, so you have no control over promotions or pricing or anything like that to be able to appeal to your readers who want to continue through the series. And you also don't have any control when it comes to covers and things like that. So that may become a problem, but if you don't really care about getting those first books in the series back from your publisher and you just want to continue the series, then this is for you. On the other hand, if you did get the rights back to your series and wanted to continue it, then you would have full control. Either way, with those 2 options, the sky is the limit with your series. Now that you either have permission to continue with the series or you got your rights back and you are planning on writing the rest of the books in the series, you can continue to do that along with create short stories or novellas or anything like that for the future of your series, and your readers will love it. In the case that you don't necessarily get the rights back or permission to write in that series anymore, you do have the option to possibly write a companion series in the same world. Again, that may bring readers to your backlist and you would be supporting the books that are owned by the traditional publisher, but you would be able to appease your readership and have full control over the production of that series. Again, make sure to check your contract if you are with a traditional publisher to make sure that they don't own any rights to the characters, the world, or anything in that series, because sometimes it's possible. Now, in that vein of keeping control over your books, you do have access to many different things that you wouldn't have as a traditionally published author, such as vendor reports, which are the reports given to you, say, on the back end of Amazon or Kobo, Barnes & Noble, Google Play, Apple Books, the works. The importance of being able to see these vendor reports is for promotions and sales that you may be running. You don't know how difficult it was for me to be able to run ads on my traditionally published books without knowing the impact of those books until about 2 months down the line when I got my reports from my publisher. And even then, those reports are not broken down by store, so I honestly had no idea if any of my promotional tactics were working until I sort of figured out if I was making more or less money, which is not really the best indicator of doing that, which is also why I'll never run ads on a traditionally published book ever again, only the books that I own. Another opportunity is direct sales. So with my self-published books, I have the full control over them, so I'm able to sell them from my website where I get higher royalties. When it comes to my traditionally published books, I can sell them direct in the case of me going to book events or anything like that, but I have to purchase my books from my publisher to be able to do that. And in the case with a lot of my books, which are digital first, I have to ask permission to get coupon codes and things like that from my publisher to be able to do anything like that. So that is another perk of being on the self-published side of hybrid publishing. And also, like I mentioned, promotions are a little easier when you do have control over your books. So in the instance that I wanted to possibly dive into BookBub ads or anything like that, I sort of had to ask permission from the publisher to possibly submit for these types of promotions. And yes, I completely understand that's part of the whole traditional publishing model. Once you give away your rights, they sort of have a lot of control over that. But as I learned throughout the years, I wanted to gain more control the longer that I spent, because I sort of saw a lot of independent authors having so much control over their books and being able to do price drops and things like that that I was unable to do when I was traditionally published. So if you're a fast writer, being a hybrid author is awesome. A lot of writers are stifled by the slowness of traditional publishing. So as long as you are not breaching any contractual requirements, such as writing in the same genre or whatever your contract states for your books, you can self-publish in between book releases for your traditional publisher. And this is also important to build up a backlist as well. So with traditional publishing, they tend to look toward the front list, which is like the books coming out soon or have just come out, where indie publishing really focuses on backlist, which is all of the books that you wrote prior to the one that you just put out or are going to put out. So if a reader enters your front list or backlist at any point and they love you, they're going to want to read all of your books, and that's super important. So if you are a faster writer or you want to publish in between your traditional releases, building up your backlist is definitely a quicker way to gain more readers. Another advantage with hybrid publishing is that you only have to deal with gatekeepers with your traditional books. This offers you the opportunity at times to write the book you want to write without someone telling you otherwise. And yes, for sure, you want to be hiring professional editors and cover designers for your books. But sometimes authors have ideas that don't exactly fit inside of what is hot or in hot genres at the time, and they just want to publish a passion project. And with hybrid publishing, going down the self-publishing route, you can scratch that itch. And the longer that you stay in this career, the more you will become naturally attuned to what genres are doing really well or where readers are gravitating toward at any given time, and you can scratch their itch as well. So another advantage is perspective. Once you've experienced both sides of the publishing industry, you really know what is available to you and what isn't at any given point. So you could be a traditional published author facing another contract with the possibility of now keeping more control over the rights of your books. or tweaking the contract based on your experience. Or you could be a self-published author who's interested in traditionally publishing your books to possibly reach an audience that you might not have been able to, but you will be able to gear that contract to really what you're looking for. So now that we've talked about more of the advantages of hybrid publishing, I want to talk about some of the challenges. It can be very expensive to start out. With a traditional publisher, you really don't have to worry about paying for anything up front. You don't have to pay for covers, editors, formatting, anything like that. With self-publishing, you have to pay for everything. You are in charge of everything. 99% of the decisions you make come with a price tag, and there's no one footing the bill except for you. As an author with a digital first imprint, I never had an advance for my books, but I did make higher royalties on my books. And for those authors in a traditional publishing contract with an advance, you're paid that advance into 3 to 5 payments over the course of publishing the book. And then if you have an agent, they get a cut of that advance as well. Now you see why most traditionally published authors have full-time jobs to supplement their bills in between these advances. Now put on top of that the costs of producing a book plus marketing. Right out the gate, you could spend hundreds to thousands of dollars publishing a book. It's a serious disadvantage when you're moving from traditional publishing to self-publishing, or even just starting off with self-publishing, so it's definitely one to consider. Another disadvantage is creating pen names. Most of the time, if you're currently in a contract with a traditional publisher, the language of the contract tends to prevent you from writing in the same genre as a competitor for self-publishing. Competing titles from the same author are usually not good for business. So you may need to write in a different genre or age range and find new readers. Sometimes this involves creating pen names. This keeps your books and your genres separate, and also your readers. But this separation is really good to be able to focus on those specific readers of your genre. This was my big mistake when I was publishing all of my books under the same name. A mistake that I am now course correcting, as most of my books are getting reverted back to me. So when I talk about the disadvantages, what does that exactly entail? And that is something that you have to sort of research and figure out on your own, because it can go from creating separate websites, email accounts, social media accounts, the works. And that can take extra time and money. When it comes to time, this is another disadvantage, is splitting your time among your traditional and self-published books. I am an author who has a full-time job outside of writing, and I have a very small amount of time each day to work on my author business. So I cannot even imagine writing both traditional and independent books at this time. So I have chosen to sort of put traditional publishing on the back burner and have really been focusing on my self-published books. But some authors do publish current contracts along with their self-published books at the same time. And it really can be cumbersome and difficult and stressful if you don't have a plan. Because at different points, depending on deadlines, one book specifically has to take precedence over the other at any given time. Another disadvantage, and this is moving more from as a traditionally published author to self-publishing, is losing those connections that traditional publishers have. And that usually has to do with marketing and distribution. Now, self-publishing has significantly improved throughout the years for writers and readers. But a majority of booksellers and libraries really are holding on tight to working with traditional publishers and their distributors. So if you are moving from trad to self-publishing, you may not have their backing anymore to be able to connect with libraries and bookstores, but you will have to make your own connections to inhabit that space. There are some helpful resources out there that I did want to mention. If you are a self-published author and want to work with libraries and bookstores, Mark Leslie Lefebvre has a fantastic book about that, as well as the Facebook group Wide for the Win is a fantastic resource, and they have a million resources for publishing wide and working with bookstores and libraries. So all hope is not lost. To achieve a successful career in publishing, I do believe that you can take advantage of both routes of publishing to create a long-lasting career. But be sure to inform yourself with the challenges and advantages of both options so that you can find your path and pivot when necessary so that you can create your own path in this journey. Let me know in the comments if you've learned anything new about hybrid publishing. I'd love to continue that conversation with you there. And in a couple weeks, I'll have another hybrid publishing video for you, and I look forward to seeing you then. So as always, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up because it really helps other writers like you find me. And subscribe if you'd like to, and ring that notification bell so you know the next time I upload, and I'll see you next week.